Hello, how's it been? It's been a long time since I did another video, but it's not that I haven't been working, it's just that I've been so busy doing a full-time job and doing 2 YouTube channels and also trying to develop the Rock Lawrence Vintage Auto Parts LLC. So we've got a lot going on. I'm going into semi-retirement, so I'll be able to focus on this a lot more. But if you get a chance, visit my other channel, A Day of Truth and Knowledge, which is a Christian oriented Bible study channel. So I'm very proud of that. So if you get a chance, look at that one also, and stay tuned for Rock Lawrence Vintage Auto Parts, the Slab 64, because we're going to be doing a lot more videos now than we were doing before. All right, so what we're going to be doing is we've got this kit. I've been working on this suspension for over 3 years, and the biggest delay was not being able to get time to work on it. And the second biggest delay was these springs. These springs are custom spring. They're 56 inches long versus the OME Jeep springs, which are 47. And the reason for that is that no matter how hard you work at it, you cannot get a 47-inch spring and keep adding arch to it and load capacity or thickness of the springs without making it stiffer to ride. So what we developed is we developed a front shackle reversal, slider boxes, and to complement the longer springs. So now these springs are longer, they have less arch. The springs are responsible for about 2 inches of lift, and the brackets are responsible for the other 3. So you get between 4 and 5 inches of lift, but you get 10 inches of travel, and it's much, much softer than anything else that you can buy on the market. Now, true, it may be a little more expensive, but you get what you pay for, because I don't care whose suspension system you get, they all ride horribly compared to a stock suspension. And that's mainly because that the springs are too short to keep adding arch to them. So if you look at this, this is my front shackle reversal right here. And let's see if I can keep the light on it there. Okay, so this is my front shackle reversal, and it has Rancho 2.5-inch lift springs. And it's advertised as 2.5 inches, but it's more like 3.5. But if you notice, this is at full droop, and it's only a fraction of what the long travel suspension will provide. And if you notice, at full droop there, that shackle is maxed out. And if it gets the opportunity off-roading, it's going to invert. And if you remember, or if you know, you read the message boards and stuff, they are constantly having issues with when they put a 4 or 5 or 6 inch lift, they cannot get the springs and the shackles together because of how much arch is in the spring. So our kit doesn't have that issue, and you don't have to worry with the slider boxes of the shackles inverting. And so we're going to go through the process of installing the slider boxes and the longer springs. That way we can have a video for our customers to look at. And let's go outside and we'll look at one that's already installed. And if you looked at the other videos on the Slab 64, you'll be familiar with this because I brag about it all the time. But this is my 87 full-size Jeep pickup truck, and I've been running this suspension for 3 years now, and I wanted to make sure that everything worked together and that the springs wouldn't sag. The first 2 sets of springs I had both sagged, and now I'm confident that we have a custom set of springs that will not sag. And so the only thing, there's one wear part, and that's the slider box slider pads. And you can get these from me. They're pretty cheap. I've been running them for over 3 years now. I don't put hundreds of thousands of miles on them, but these do last, and I don't think you'll have any problems with them. But if you do find out that they wear out, that you can get these cheaply. And then we also have brass bushings, or not brass bushings, but brass washers that will ride on the inside of the slider box, and that will prevent the spring from cutting into the bracket, which isn't really an issue, but we just wanted to be on the safe side of engineering so that we don't tear up our bracket. We basically replace the wear items to correct any issues. But that's what we have, and if you notice, this is a pretty cool concept, is what I call the diamond washer. And so what this does is, instead of the bushing being supported on the 9/16 inch bolt, it's also supported at each end with the diamond washer. And so that distributes the load, and that way it doesn't just wear in the center. All right, so stay tuned. We're going to start the install on this, and that way you can see how easy it is. There is a little bit of welding that needs to be done, and that is done here. On the cross member. If you look up in there, you can see where there's a pocket welded into the cross member, and we provide that pocket. So that's the only welding that you'll have to do. Everything else is bolt-head. And this is the pocket right here. This is the pocket. You basically will have pictures that shows how to weld that in, but you just weld it in and grind off the excess if you feel like it, or you don't have to grind off the excess because it's pretty much hidden. Nobody will ever see it. Everything you need to put these longer 56-inch long springs under your truck and create the best riding lifted vehicle option that you can get. All right, stand by and we'll get this thing going shortly. Bye. GoPro, stop recording. All right, so at the beginning, we're going to want to support the vehicle safely. I have a custom front jack and that I put underneath the front cross member. And then I'll start removing the wheels and tires, and then get everything set up to remove the U-bolts to separate the springs from the axle housing. If you noticed, I've got a large jack. That's a custom-made jack that's in the front. I was not able to use the lift because the lift pads, in order to balance the vehicle, were right in the way where the slider boxes were going to go. Right now I'm pulling off the sway bar links. You have to have some way to support the axle so that you can get the U-bolts out. And so putting a jack stand at each hub works pretty well. And I don't know if you've ever used those, but those thick rubber mats with all the holes in them, they are comfortable when you're lying on the ground. And if there's dirt or oil, you have almost a whole inch because of how thick the mat is, so you can lay on the mat and not necessarily get all that dirt on you. So you can find those at just about any hardware store, or Lowe's, or Home Depot. Now we're moving to remove the springs, and remove the front spring bolt first, and then we'll do the rear spring bolt. As you can tell, there's a gap in the video there. I had to come back and refilm this part because my GoPro overheated. So this is complete acting here. Let's see if I can pull it off. All right, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be cutting this bracket out. This is the old shackle bracket. So we're going to cut along this line here. That will give us access to the rivets underneath. And then we can grind this off and pop that off also. So this is also already covered in the front shackle reversal video, but by cutting these out, it makes it more accessible for you to get in and cut the rivets and to cut the bracket out. So after we get the bracket cut out, the new bracket will go in this location here, and one of the measurements that you'll have to do will be from this point over should be 2 inches, and you're going to drill a 1 1/4 inch hole, and that'll be for one of the mounting bolts inside the for the slider box. And then there will also be another one in this area over here. All right, so we removed the bracket, as you can see right here. So this has all been taken out. The bracket's now gone. You can drive those studs out of the frame if you want to. I just grind them flush. And then after that, now that you have that bracket out of the way, go ahead and mount your slider box using these 2 holes. And then from underneath, go ahead and drill out 3 1/2 inch holes into the bottom of the frame. And after that, then we'll go to the next step. One more item. The bracket comes with a pilot hole right here. See, I've got the arrow pointing to it. So take a drill bit and run that pilot hole, because that is going to be the second access hole so that you can drop a bolt in to bolt to the bottom of the bracket. This is the first one, and this one is 2 inches over from this bolt. And basically, this gives you access to drop a bolt in here, and then you're going to run a drill bit through this pilot hole so that you can run another 1 1/4 inch hole behind this plate to drop the other bolt. This bolt in front, you can drop it through this hole or the hole on the other side. All right, this is what we're going to have. You can see the 2 holes that I put in there. One's larger than the other. That's only because I couldn't find the right hole saw when I made the larger one, so I got a 1 1/4 there on the left, but that's what you should have. And that's so that you can drop these bolts through. And they will go in here and then basically drop through. And then once you have them drop through, then you can put the plate in place and bolt everything together. However, our frames are old. They've got 1,000,000 pounds of dirt in them. So make sure that you blow out all the dirt. because if you don't get the dirt out, the bolts won't set in there and they won't tighten up like they should. Okay, and look at all that dirt. 1, 2, and 3 bolts drop through the holes, and then we'll basically slide that slider box on there without pushing these up. Then we'll use red Loctite. It's a lock bolt already, but we'll use red Loctite. These are J bolts and they won't turn inside the frame. They lock. This one here you'll have to put a wrench on. But we'll go ahead and I'll put that slider box in there and then we'll take another picture. Okay, so here we are. The bracket's in place. You can see from underneath. Got Loctite. These bolts are torqued down to basically 50 pounds, 50 foot-pounds. And the smaller ones are torqued down to 35-40, which are on the side. And don't worry, in the future, if you guys need to take your transmission cross member down, it will slide out because it doesn't, these brackets do not make contact with this. So you can take the bolts out, slide it backwards. Okay, and basically that's it in a nutshell. We got everything put in place. And it is ready to go. I am going to put the new bump stop in place, but the kit will also include a set of long travel brake lines for the front also, and also the rear. Okay, talk to you later. Keep going. All right, so one of the things, we're getting ready to put these springs in. The on the long side, or the side that goes into the slider boxes, if you see any of the sleeve popping up past the rubber bushing, go ahead and grind that down. I did that on one side of each spring, and what that does is that provides a nice flat surface for the copper brass bushing to slide on, so that there's more support there instead of it just riding on the metal insert. Okay. Okay, so we have the spring into position. It's mounted in the front. It's mounted in the rear. The only unique thing is how we torque the bolt in the rear, because if we torque it down too tight, then it won't be able to slide on the pads that are on the slider box. So this is how we do that. We've got red Loctite on this bolt. And we want to make sure that the slider blocks are inside the track. And then we're going to tighten this down. Okay, and you have to make sure that both slider boxes are in their spots. And we're going to torque this down to 60 pounds. And that's at 6 o'clock there, and we're going to back it off 90 degrees. Okay. And that will allow it to slide back and forth. All right. All right, so we've gotten to the point now where the springs are both installed. I found that it's easier to install the rear of the spring into the slider box instead of doing the front first, because the slider box has more variables in getting the slider blocks in the track and all that stuff, etc. So it's definitely easier to start at the rear of the spring, get it into the slider box, get everything set up, not necessarily tight on the 9/16 inch spring. Definitely, of course, it wants to be tight to the frame, but then after you get that, install the spring into the front of the front shackle reversal. Okay, so this is where we're at. Okay, we've got the springs installed. The axle is still hanging on these jack stands, so what we're going to do is we're going to use the jack, we're going to lift this up and let it set on the springs, and then we're going to start installing the U-bolts and the U-bolt plates, get all that done. We'll get that recorded. It's going to be kind of some boring stuff, but let's watch. All right, something else to take note of is in my kits, we step up to a 5/8 inch diameter U-bolt. So the spring pad, U-bolt pads are going to have to be opened up to a minimum of 5/8. I found that it's easier to go ahead and open them up to 3/4, and that way you have a little bit of flexibility of getting everything lined up. So this is something that you'll have to do because the kit will come with 5/8 U-bolts. So what I'm doing right now is I'm finishing up the axle install by attaching the front axle to the new front springs by installing the U-bolts and the U-bolt plates. All right, now we're at the point where the springs are hooked up and the axle plates are on. Now we're going to have to cut these, the remaining pieces of the U-bolts off, trim them basically up to where the nut is so that they don't become anchors when you're driving off-road. Also got the new sway bar links. Got to cut those off. And one other thing that I want to do is I'm going to show you how to basically measure for your front drive shaft. That's going to be done here. And we're going to go from this point here, the cup on the front yoke, to the cup on the front drive shaft. So we'll measure one completely with suspension at droop and then try to calculate on full compression, because there is a difference between the two because the axle moves forward and backward. Right now we're at full droop. And now this is my setup. I've got an AX15 208. And so right there at full droop, I'm at 34.5. And then we'll get the measurement at full compression. All right, so let's look at it outside now. We don't have the, we got the full front kit on. And if you noticed, you got Rock Lawrence's 1-ton steering conversion on there also. But if we take a look at it, you can see that the front is higher. The front is up around 5+ inches. It'll settle a little bit once you run it and cycle it. Should settle out at about 5 inches, maybe a little less. Right now it's above 5 inches. And you can see that the rear is sitting low because it's got a 2.5-inch lift on it. And I'm waiting on the parts, and we'll put the 4-inch lift on it, which will level that up a little bit. And that'll be on the next episode.